Before the grand boulevards of Paris or the majestic chateau of the Loire, the land we know as France was Gaul. It was a place of deep forests and powerful tribes. In these ancient times, long before kings and queens, trade was simple. People exchanged goods directly. A farmer might trade a sack of wheat for a finely crafted piece of pottery. This system, known as barter, worked for centuries. But as societies grew more complex, they needed something more practical. They needed a common measure of value, something small, durable, and universally accepted. This need would give birth to the very first coins, a revolutionary invention that would change the course of history and commerce forever. The idea of coinage did not spring from the Gallic soil alone. It came from across the sea, carried by Greek merchants who established colonies like Massilia, modern-day Marseille, around 600 BC. These traders brought with them their own silver coins, which fascinated the local Celtic tribes. The Gauls saw the convenience of these small metal discs. They were easier to carry than a flock of sheep. Inspired by these Greek and later Roman examples, the Gallic tribes began to mint their own coins. These early pieces were often made of a gold alloy and were not perfect copies. Instead, they were beautiful, abstract interpretations featuring stylized horses, boars, and human heads. These first Gallic coins, called staters, were more than just money. They were symbols of power and identity for the chieftains who issued them. Each tribe had its own distinct design, a kind of metallic signature that declared its sovereignty. For example, the Parisii tribe, who lived in the area around modern Paris, created stunningly abstract gold staters that are now considered masterpieces of Celtic art. The coins were not just for buying goods, they were for paying soldiers, displaying wealth, and solidifying a leader's authority. This marked the beginning of a long and storied numismatic history in France, a tradition where a coin was never just a coin, but a reflection of its time. As Rome expanded its empire, its currency, the denarius, became the standard throughout Gaul. The intricate and realistic portraits of Roman emperors on these coins were a powerful form of propaganda, spreading the image of Roman authority to the farthest corners of the province. The Gallic mints slowly faded away, replaced by the efficiency of the Roman system. For nearly 500 years, Roman coins dominated daily life. This period taught the people of Gaul the importance of a standardized, widespread currency. It laid the groundwork for the future, for a time when a unified French kingdom would need its own powerful monetary symbol, a journey that would eventually lead to the creation of the legendary louis d'or. After the fall of the Roman Empire, Europe entered a period of fragmentation. The Great Frankish Kingdom was a patchwork of territories with different laws and customs. Commerce was difficult. Many different coins were in circulation, left over from Roman times or crudely minted by local lords. There was no trust, no standard. It was a chaotic situation. Then came a great ruler, a man with a vision to unite Europe under one crown and one faith, Charlemagne. He understood that to build a true empire, he needed more than just a strong army. He needed to control the economy. He needed a single, reliable currency for all his subjects. Charlemagne launched a radical monetary reform around the year 781. He swept away all the old, unreliable gold coins. His revolutionary idea was to base his entire system on a single metal silver. He created a new standard of weight, the Carolingian pound, and decreed that 240 new coins called deniers would be minted from 1 pound of pure silver. This was the birth of the denier, a small but powerful silver coin that would become the backbone of the European economy for centuries. This system, pounds, shillings, and pence, was so influential that its structure survived in Britain until 1971. Charlemagne's reform was not just about economics. It was a political masterstroke. The design of the denier was simple, yet powerful. On one side, it featured a cross, a clear symbol of the Christian empire Charlemagne was building. On the other side was the king's own monogram, a stylized representation of his name, Carolus. This was brilliant propaganda. Every time someone used a denier, they were holding a piece of the emperor's authority in their hand. The coin spread a message of unity, faith, and royal power across his vast domain, from the Pyrenees to the North Sea. It was a tangible reminder that everyone, from a farmer in Aquitaine to a merchant in Saxony, was part of a single, great empire. The silver denier established a crucial principle in French history: the monarch controls the money. It was the king, and only the king, who had the right to mint coins and guarantee their value. This royal prerogative would become a cornerstone of French sovereignty. While the denier itself would change in weight and purity over the following centuries, the system Charlemagne created endured. His reform brought order out of chaos and laid the foundation for a national currency. It was this legacy of a strong, centralized monetary system that would, hundreds of years later, allow a French king to dream even bigger, to create a coin not of silver, but of pure, shining gold. For centuries after Charlemagne, silver was king. The denier, and later the franc, dominated commerce. Gold coins existed, but they were often inconsistent or foreign. France, a kingdom growing in power and prestige, lacked a signature gold coin to match its ambitions. This all changed in the 17th century with the arrival of King Louis XIII. He was a king determined to centralize power, strengthen the French state, and project an image of absolute authority. At his side was the brilliant and powerful Cardinal Richelieu. Together, they understood that a great nation needed a great currency, one that would be respected and desired across the world. In 1640, Louis XIII enacted a major monetary reform. His goal was to end the monetary chaos of the time, where old, worn-out coins of varying quality circulated alongside Spanish gold. He wanted to create a new, modern, and perfectly standardized coin. Using advanced machinery for the first time, the screw press, the Paris Mint was able to produce coins of exceptional quality and uniformity. The centerpiece of this reform was a magnificent new gold coin. In a brilliant move of branding, the king named it after himself. It was to be called the Louis d'Or, or Louis of Gold. This was more than just a name, it was a declaration of royal power. The creation of the Louis d'Or was a profoundly political act. At the time, Spain was France's great rival, and its gold escudo, often called a doubloon, was the dominant international currency. By introducing a new, high-quality gold coin, Louis XIII was directly challenging Spanish supremacy. The Louis d'Or was designed to be better, purer, and more beautiful than any other coin in Europe. It was a statement that France was now a major player on the world stage, a nation of wealth, sophistication, and strength. Every gleaming gold louis that left the mint was an ambassador for the glory of the French monarchy. The public's reception of the Louis d'Or was immediate and enthusiastic. Its consistent weight and high purity, 22 carats, made it instantly trustworthy for merchants and bankers. The coin was not just for large transactions, it became a symbol of wealth and status. To own a Louis d'Or was to possess a piece of the kingdom's splendor. It was used to pay for art, to fund armies, and to build the magnificent palaces that would define the era. The Louis d'Or was not merely a coin. It was the financial fuel for France's golden age, a tangible piece of the king's glory that one could hold in the palm of one's hand. When Louis XIV, the great Sun King, ascended to the throne, the Louis d'Or reached its zenith of splendor. The coin became a canvas for celebrating the king's absolute power and divine right to rule. The design of the Louis d'Or under Louis XIV was a masterpiece of Baroque art. One side featured a striking, lifelike portrait of the king. As he aged, the portrait on the coin aged with him, from a young boy with long flowing hair to a mature, bewigged monarch. The artists, like the famous Jean Warin, captured his regal presence with incredible skill. This was a powerful message. The king's image was everywhere, a constant presence in the lives of his subjects. The reverse side of the coin was just as symbolic. Early versions continued the royal cross design, but later, more elaborate motifs were introduced. A famous design, the Louis XIV, featured four crowned, interlocking L's forming a cross, with a fleur-de-lis in each corner. At the center was the letter of the mint where the coin was made, such as A for Paris. The legend around the edge often read PR as Ren Vinc Impa, an abbreviation for Christus Regnat, Vincit Imperat, meaning Christ reigns, conquers, commands. This linked the king's power directly to God's, reinforcing the idea of the divine right of kings. The value of the louis d'or was not fixed. It fluctuated based on royal edicts and the relative price of gold and silver. Initially, it was worth 10 livres tournois, the French unit of account, but its value was often re-tariffed. This could be confusing, but it also gave the king a tool to manipulate the economy. Despite these fluctuations, its intrinsic value remained high due to its pure gold content. A single louis d'or could represent a month's wages for a skilled artisan. It was not a coin for everyday use, but for significant payments, savings, and international trade. Its prestige was immense, making it one of the most sought-after coins in all of Europe. The louis d'or continued to evolve under Louis XV and Louis XVI, with each king placing his own portrait on the obverse. The Louis au bandeau of Louis XV, showing the king with a ribbon in his hair, and the Louis aux lunettes of Louis XVI, with its dual shields of France and Navarre, are famous examples. Despite these changes, the coin maintained its high quality and status. It was the gold standard of the French monarchy, a symbol of stability and tradition that lasted for nearly 150 years. Each coin is a miniature historical document, telling the story of the king who minted it and the era he ruled. In the 17th and 18th centuries, Europe was quite the theater of intense competition between the great powers. You see, this rivalry, it wasn't just fought on battlefields, it was also waged in the world of finance and trade. The most powerful nations, they sought to make their currency the international standard. In this arena, the French louis d'or had two main rivals, the Spanish gold escudo and the British gold guinea. Each of these coins was a symbol of its nation's economic might and global reach. Now, the louis d'or, it was France's champion in this golden contest, representing French elegance, power, and centralized authority. The Spanish escudo, often minted in the vast colonial empire of the Americas, was the old champion. For decades, Spanish gold from Mexico and Peru had flooded Europe, making the escudo the de facto international currency. However, Spanish coins were often crudely minted using a hammer, resulting in irregular shapes and, well, inconsistent quality. The louis d'or, by contrast, was machine-made, perfectly round, and of a consistently high purity. This superior quality and beauty, it gave it a distinct advantage. Merchants began to prefer the reliable and elegant French coin, and it gradually began to challenge Spain's monetary dominance. Across the English Channel, France's other great rival, Great Britain, introduced its own magnificent gold coin in 1663, the guinea. It was named after the Guinea coast of West Africa, where much of the gold used to mint it was sourced. The guinea, you see, was slightly heavier than the louis d'or, and was also a high-quality, machine-struck coin. The rivalry between the louis d'or and the guinea mirrored the political and military rivalry between France and Britain. In international ports from the Caribbean to India, merchants would, well, weigh and assess these coins, their relative values shifting with the fortunes of war and trade between the two empires. Despite the fierce competition, the louis d'or held its own. Its prestige was tied to the cultural and political influence of France itself. During the Age of Enlightenment, French was the language of diplomacy and high culture throughout Europe. The court of Versailles, it was the model that every other monarch tried to emulate. In the same way, the louis d'or became a symbol of sophistication and status. To conduct a major transaction in louis d'or was a sign of good taste. While the guinea was the coin of a vast trading empire and the escudo the coin of colonial riches, the louis d'or was the coin of civilization and royal splendor. The French Revolution of 1789 was a cataclysm that swept away the old world. It brought an end to the absolute monarchy, the aristocracy, and all the symbols that represented them. The louis d'or, with the king's portrait proudly stamped on its face, was a prime target of this revolutionary fervor. The very name, Louis of Gold, was an unacceptable reminder of the deposed and later executed King Louis XVI. The new republic sought to erase all traces of royalty. They began to mint new coins with revolutionary symbols such as the genius of liberty and the motto Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité. The era of the louis d'or was over. However, the revolutionary period was economically chaotic. The new paper money, the assignat, failed spectacularly, leading to hyperinflation. People longed for the stability of real gold. This created an opportunity for a new strongman to rise: Napoleon Bonaparte. When he came to power, one of his first priorities was to stabilize the economy and create a new, lasting monetary system. In 1803, he introduced the franc germinal, a reform that established a new gold coin. This coin, a 20-franc piece, was made of the same high-quality gold as the old louis d'or. It quickly became known as the Napoleon d'or. The Napoleon d'or was a brilliant piece of political branding. It intentionally built upon the legacy of the louis d'or. It had the same size, weight, and purity, ensuring the public's trust. But instead of the king's portrait, it featured the profile of Napoleon, first as first consul and later as emperor, often crowned with a laurel wreath like a Roman Caesar. The coin was a powerful tool of his propaganda, spreading his image across France and the vast territories he conquered. Every coin was a declaration of his new imperial glory, replacing the old royal splendor with his own. The Napoleon d'or proved to be incredibly successful and stable. Its design and specifications became the basis for the Latin Monetary Union in 1865, a precursor to the modern euro, which included France, Belgium, Switzerland, and Italy. Even after Napoleon's fall, the 20-franc gold coin continued to be minted, featuring the portraits of the restored kings and later republican symbols, but it was always popularly known as a Napoleon. While the Napoleon d'or replaced the louis d'or in circulation, it could never erase its memory. The louis d'or remained the legendary coin of the Ancien Régime, a symbol of a lost golden age of royal France. Today, the louis d'or no longer circulates as money, but its story is far from over. It has entered a new life as a treasured object for historians and collectors. These coins are tangible artifacts of a bygone era, miniature time capsules from the courts of the French kings. For numismatists, people who study and collect coins, the louis d'or represents the pinnacle of French royal coinage. Its beauty, its historical significance, and in many cases, its rarity, make it one of the most desirable coins in the world. Owning a louis d'or is like owning a piece of the Palace of Versailles. The value of a louis d'or today depends on several factors. The first is its bullion value, the worth of the gold it contains. But for collectors, this is the least important part. The real value comes from its rarity and condition. A common louis d'or from the reign of Louis XV or XVI, in average condition, might sell for a few hundred to a couple of thousand euros. However, certain versions are exceptionally rare. For example, coins from a specific small mint or those with a unique design or an era can be much more valuable. The first louis d'or minted in 1640 is highly sought after. The most spectacular prices are fetched by coins in pristine condition or with a special history. A louis d'or that has been perfectly preserved for over 300 years with no scratches or wear is a numismatic miracle. These coins can be worth tens of thousands of euros. Some of the rarest types, like certain large denomination louis d'or, worth 10 louis, can reach astronomical prices at auction. In 2017, an extremely rare 10 louis d'or coin from 1640, featuring the portrait of Louis XIII, was sold for over 200,000 euros. These record-breaking sales demonstrate the incredible fascination that these royal coins still hold. Collecting louis d'or is a journey through French history. Each coin tells a story. A Louis à la mèche longue shows a young Louis XIV with a long lock of hair, a sign of youthful vigor. A Louis aux lunettes from the reign of Louis XVI, minted just before the Revolution, feels poignant and tragic. Collectors often specialize in a particular king or a specific mint. They hunt for these golden treasures at auctions, in antique shops, and at coin fairs, piecing together the monetary history of France, one magnificent coin at a time. The hunt itself is part of the passion, a quest for a piece of lost royal splendor. France's history is so rich and long that its coinage offers a spectacular variety of treasures for collectors. While the louis d'or is undoubtedly a star, it is part of a grand pantheon of numismatic legends. Ranking these coins is subjective, but if we consider historical importance, rarity, and collective value, a hierarchy emerges. At the very top, we might place the franc à cheval. This was the first ever French coin to be called a franc, minted in 1360 to pay the ransom for King John II the Good, who was captured by the English. It shows the king on horseback and is a powerful symbol of French resilience. Next in this exclusive club would be the Louis d'Or. Its long reign, from 1640 to 1792, its consistent quality, and its direct association with the golden age of the French monarchy give it a unique and powerful allure. The sheer beauty of the Baroque portraits of Louis XIII and Louis XIV makes these coins works of art. The Louis d'Or represents the peak of royal power and prestige, making it a cornerstone for any serious collection of French coins. Its fame extends far beyond France, recognized globally as a symbol of the Ancien Régime. Following closely is the Napoleon d'Or. While it came after the Louis d'Or, its historical impact is immense. This 20-franc gold coin powered Napoleon's empire and became the standard for the Latin monetary union, influencing European currency for a century. It is one of the most widely collected gold coins in the world due to its historical significance and affordability. For many, the Napoleon is the quintessential French gold coin, a symbol of a new, modern France rising from the ashes of revolution and becoming a dominant force in Europe. Other coins also deserve a place of honor. The ancient gold staters of the Gallic tribes, especially those of the Parisii, are prized for their abstract beauty and extreme rarity. The silver denier of Charlemagne is historically crucial as the coin that unified Europe's economy. Finally, the elegant gold écu d'or, a predecessor to the Louis d'Or, is also highly valued. In this distinguished company, the Louis d'Or shines brightly. It may not be the very first franc, but it is the coin that best embodies the glamour, power, and artistic brilliance of France at its most magnificent. The story of the Louis d'Or is more than just the history of a piece of metal. It is the story of France itself during its most glorious and turbulent period. The gleam of this gold coin reflects the ambition of its kings, the genius of its artists, and the power of its economy. It is a symbol that has endured for centuries, long after it ceased to be legal tender. Its legacy is woven into the cultural fabric of France, representing an era of unparalleled splendor, known as the Grand Siècle, the Great Century. The Louis d'Or symbolizes a specific vision of France, a nation of elegance, luxury, and cultural supremacy. It evokes images of the glittering Hall of Mirrors at Versailles, the plays of Molière, and the perfectly manicured gardens designed by Le Nôtre. This coin was the currency of that world. It paid for the art, the architecture, and the wars that defined the age. In the collective French imagination, the Louis d'Or is not just money. It is a treasure, a relic from a golden age. The phrase "riches Croesus" might be ancient, but for a Frenchman to have a Louis d'Or implies a classic, old-world wealth. This symbolism has been kept alive in literature and popular culture. In adventure novels like Alexandre Dumas' The Count of Monte Cristo, hidden treasures are often described in terms of sacks of Louis d'Or. The coin appears in stories of pirates, musketeers, and hidden royal fortunes. It is a narrative shortcut for immense wealth and historical romance. This has cemented its status not just as a historical artifact, but as a mythic object, a key to unlocking stories of France's dramatic past. It is the stuff of legends, far more so than any modern currency could ever be. In conclusion, the Louis d'Or's journey from a tool of royal policy to a treasured collector's item, and finally to a national symbol, is remarkable. It represents the successful union of political power, economic strength, and artistic beauty. While France is now a modern republic and part of the Eurozone, the memory of its royal gold coin persists. The Louis d'Or remains a powerful and evocative symbol of French history, a small, golden disc that carries the weight of a kingdom's glory. It is, and always will be, a piece of the golden soul of France.